Well, we're here to talk on behalf of Zane Musa. Now, Zane Musa was my friend, was my buddy, was my pal, and Zane Musa was my best friend. And it's kind of strange to say that because everyone who's ever known Zane Musa would say Zane Musa was my best friend. He was the best friend to everybody that he knew. He was a wonderful guy. No one has ever said anything bad about Zane Musa. He was the most beautiful cat in the world. And for a lot of you who don't really know who Zane Musa was, he was a saxophone player, and truthfully, one of the greatest musicians of the 20th and 21st century. He was outstanding. He was fantastic playing jazz. You know, there's four major saxophones. There's the big saxophone, which stands about this tall. It's the baritone saxophone. And then there's the smaller saxophone, which is the tenor saxophone. And then there's the alto saxophone, which Zane liked to play. And then there's the smaller soprano saxophone. Well, Zane was proficient on the alto saxophone. And those of you who knew Zane knows that there's, in the whole country of the United States of America, there's only two really bad, I mean really great alto saxophone players. And both of them are Zane Musa. He was a bad cat. Now, I knew Zane about 20 years ago. I met Zane about 20 years ago. He was a teenager. And I met him in a club, and he was playing, and I couldn't believe how great he was. I mean, he was a true genius of a saxophone player and a musician, too. And I walked up to him and asked him if he would be in my band, and he said that he would. But one thing I noticed about Zane was that he was very humble. For a man to be so great, so wonderful, so talented, even as a teenager, he was one of the best saxophone players in the world. And I remember he was so humble, and it really touched me. You know, we would play sometimes, and Zane would like to check out other musicians as they were playing. You know, like he would play a killer solo. I mean, have everybody on their feet. And then he would stop, and he would want to dig the other cats, you know, in the band. And always someone would come up to him and say, "Hey, man, I really dug the way you play. I really dug the way you play." And I know Zane. Zane is the type of guy who didn't dig being dug while he was digging. But he would never say, "Hey, man, I don't dig being dug while I'm digging." He would always humbly, you know, acknowledge the person and forego his digging. That'd be really cool. But Zane Musa was a fantastic saxophone player. I remember once he told me, we were talking about dance, and he told me, he says, I don't know how it came up, but he said, I used to tap dance. And I said, "Oh, that's great, you know." And he says, I said, "Were you any good?" He says, "Well, when I was 14, I went to New York, and I was in this national competition." And I said, "Oh, I remember that competition. That's like the best people in the country go to this competition to be judged and to see who is the best." And I'm thinking, this guy is from California, you know, he goes to New York to dance among the best. And I said, "Well, Zane, how did you do, son?" He said, "Oh, I won." So this kid was 14 years old, and he was the best tap dancer in the country. And 6 years later, he was amongst the best saxophone players in the world. And one thing about Zane, you know, I'm 67 years old, and I always had thought, I wish I would have been born 50 years earlier. Because had I been born 50 years sooner, I would have been able to see Satchel Paige pitch. I would have been able to see Babe Ruth hit. I would have been able to see the creation of swing music. I could have seen Louis Armstrong develop. I could have seen Duke Ellington as he started to develop. I could have seen Count Basie, and I could have seen all these great things that happened before my time. And when Zane checked out, because you know, Chance, his brother, you have to really check out Chance. Go on YouTube and really do a comprehensive study of Chance. There's not a lot of stuff, because he was kind of young. But check him out. I know you've all seen Astaire, you've all seen Kelly, Sammy Davis Jr., you've all seen the Nicholas Brothers, but check out Chance. He was otherworldly. He was different from anyone I've ever met. And he basically couldn't cope, and he just decided to check out. And with Zane, I don't know what happened. It was a matter of circumstance. It was like a 30-second circumstance. He went to get on a plane, and he missed the plane by 30 seconds.
Oh my God.
And no one knows what happened, but shortly after that, he went on a structure and landed on the bottom of the structure, and that was it. 30 seconds. If he had been 30 seconds earlier to the airport, he would have been okay. But anyway, I always wish I had been born sooner, so I could have checked out a lot of things. But in my lifetime, I was very fortunate to have been able to meet and know very well great people like HB Barnum. Was my friend and my pal. I've known people like Stevie Wonder. I've known people like Count Basie, and I've known Duke Ellington. I've been very fortunate, but I think one of the greatest honors of my life is that I was able to know and be a very good friend of and mentor her son, Mr. Zane Musa.